Hello, welcome to Module 9. There are a couple of issues I just wanted to review with you. One was the Wild Child assignment, and I apologize to you that you didn't get to see the video Nobody's Child. It is really, really good, and I'm hoping to find a way to put it back on for you. Unfortunately, with YouTube, they move things whenever something happens and they change the videos that are made available, and that's one that it's in great demand, but it isn't necessarily easy. I have copies of it, so I have in the past had you all come to campus and get an opportunity to see it, and it too is a practical application of something real that could have had different outcomes to it. But let me talk about the Wild Child for a moment. When you take a look at Jeannie, she's California, so I can talk easily about what the laws are. And there were so many violations with what happened to her that it changed all of the rules in the National Institute of Mental Health. It ethically violated all of the codes. These research people got so excited about what they were going to learn and know from a little girl that they forgot that she was a little girl. And so when they found out that she existed, instead of CPS being called to remove her from the home, which is what should have happened by California law, UCLA stepped in and took over the research. So what should have happened was CPS should have picked up this child, and then a social worker could have gotten involved. We would have been maybe a case manager that I asked you about in one of the questions. She should have temporarily been placed into some sort of foster or group home situation, possibly even into some sort of private children's facility. But there's a reason why that doesn't happen, and that's financially why it doesn't happen. UCLA has a huge children's hospital as part of its program, but it used it as a mental health experiment as opposed to what you normally would send a child to a hospital for. Once Jeannie was put into the foster home, then some referrals should have been made. Number one, she should have medically been examined, and a medical doctor should have made some determinations about her medical health. Also, perhaps suggesting that she have clinical help from a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist also. The schools definitely should have been involved. She is a minor child. All children have educational rights and should be placed into a situation where they can be evaluated for what is healthy for them academically. Now, in Jeannie's case, that may have been limited, but that's what the schools are set up to do. And so she would have had an IEP started, which means an IEPT, which is a team of people. And that team can include mental health workers, social workers from CPS. It can include somebody from UCLA who is some sort of researcher or specialist, if you will. It can include a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist, or whomever the team feels is appropriate to serve on that team. And then there are regular meetings that are established to review the assessments that are done through the school. Schools have school psychologists, and those school psychologists are well equipped to do all of the testing, the assessments educationally, also physically to a certain point, or to refer them out to like a physical therapist to look at her ability to function, to walk, to do that kind of thing. And the therapies can be started. They can be started at the school. They can be started during school time. Transportation can be provided. Also, recommendations for special type of housing can also be recommended. And for instance, non-public schools, which are set up for all children with any kinds of disabilities, whether it be mental health, and ED kids are a prime candidate for a non-public school, and that means emotionally disturbed. Those people go to the non-public school, and it's paid for by the public dollar. So I want you to remember to look with minor children at the role of the school or education in making the decisions about what can be provided to families and to children. Because you may be in that boat sometime, and you don't just automatically go to every other agency to begin that process. You can start right with a school and get a meeting started. This student study team could be the first thing called, followed by the IEP team if it's decided that that's appropriate for the child. And most of you missed that. There were a couple of you who got that, but you've got to start thinking about that with minor children. And it doesn't mean that you get to have the say as a case manager about all of it, but you would be an important person as a case manager working for some other agency to come up with the services that are provided for the child. So it's really important to think that way. You did pretty well on the ethical issues. There is a code of ethics for USPRA and for CASRA, if you will, psychosocial rehabilitation. I would expect you to look that up. And of course, confidentiality, discrimination, all of those are definitely mentioned there. And almost every one of those was disregarded in terms of Jeannie. And Jeannie is a person. Now, is she capable of making her own decisions? Probably not. Could she sit in on an IEP to help make some of those decisions? Maybe at her age, but probably not at age 13. Maybe a little older when she had time to process. Because remember, she had no contact at all socially. No social contact. Where did she belong? She belonged with other kids in similar situations with her. Maybe not quite so severe, but at least the opportunity to be around other people her age. And it probably would have been in some sort of special education classroom set up to deal with the issues that she had. And it would have provided the linguist, if you will. Speech therapists are hired by every school district to work with children. And they're very, very good at what they do. And some of you want to think about that as an occupation. That and school psychology, along with school counseling, are right in there with other human service occupations. In terms of the bonus question, I expected you to go back and look. What was her background? Where did she come from? Who were her parents? Were there other siblings? Why did her father isolate her? What could you find that gave you a clue about why he did that? What caused her disability? Was she really retarded? We'll never know. But we could have figured it out probably if we had removed her from the home appropriately. But I want you to know where she is today. What difference did it make that she went in all the failed foster homes where she was treated physically and mentally inappropriately? This child never did have a break. And as an adult, she is still fearful of the world. And who can she trust? Who could she ever trust? And so it's very sad when we think of the outcome with Jeannie. But anyway, you were supposed to document that. But most of you missed the nature versus nurture. What causes our behavior? Is it because of how we're raised? Or is it because of the genetic makeup that we have? Nature is what is provided to us genetically. What are you given to start with? Nurture is how all of that is nurtured, and that means how it's fed, not just food. It means psychologically. What difference does loving somebody make? What difference does encouraging somebody to maximize their potential make? Praise, hugs, all of that kind of thing can make a huge difference in how well a child performs, no matter what their disability is. And that's something we need to be very aware of. So you have to ask yourself, is this nature or is this just nurture? Anyway, you're going to have one more assignment. I can't tell you quite what it is yet, but I'm still working on Nobody's Child, because that too is a real situation that I would like you to look at how you would have handled it differently. The other thing I want to talk about is you all were sent an email yesterday, and it was sent on a program that the university or the college is performing on the 21st of March, and includes a group of people who are interested in the autism spectrum. And the DSM-5 has redefined that spectrum, and I think we all should be aware of what that is, because right now it's a really big issue and what causes it. And a lot of money is going into research on how to detect early autism, how to give services appropriately for it, and how to try to understand how to work with the children and get them to have a functional life going into adulthood. Because if you have a child with autism, you're going to have an adult with autism. And if you have an adult who has autism, they had it as a child, which tells you you don't get rid of it, and you don't get it later on in life. Your life comes with it. And what causes it? I don't know. And neither does anybody else, for sure. So if you want to go to that program, then I'm taking away 2 assignments that you have, and that's the domain question and the class exercise for Module 10. So take a look at it and see if you can go. Some of you who are out of county, I'm sorry, or if you have to work that evening, I'm sorry about that too. I can't do anything about that. I can just give this as an option that you can do instead of the other 2 written assignments. But you can do one or the other, it doesn't matter which one. I'd love to have everybody get to go to the program on autism, because I think it would be really healthy. And so do the best you can on it, but it gives you a couple of weeks to at least try to make arrangements if you can to go. And parking gets really nasty at MJC for those of you who don't go on campus often. So go early, and I guess that this is going to fill up probably really quickly. So come early to get a seat. And I wish you well, and have a good week. Thanks.